afternoon. It is 1 p.m. Monday, October 14th, 2019. We're here for the regular trustees meeting. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Do we have any additions, modifications, alterations?
Did you get the minutes? We can add the minutes of September 9th and 27th. September 9th and September 27th.
7th. Any other tweaks? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved?
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Make a motion to accept general ledger report in the amount of $376,077.94 for the September 25th, 2019 payroll.
Second?
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $356,319.39 for the 10/9/19 payroll.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Make a motion to accept the payment listing report in the amount of $326,109.34 for warrants through October 9th, 2019.
Second?
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve or accept the meeting minutes from the regular meetings on September 9th, 2019 and September 27th, 2019.
Second?
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes. Moving on. Seeing no citizens desiring to speak, we have no old business, no new business. We will move on to Acting Administrator Chief Vanderboss.
Thank you, Board. First item we have today is the Greene County Sheriff's Office and the 2020 Police Fund Budget, which is why I'm guessing they're very well represented today.
Can you walk us through what our just so anybody that's watching this, what our staffing level is today and where this takes our staffing level as far as maintaining it or enhancing it?
Yes. So currently we have 5 individuals that are permanently assigned out here to Beavercreek Township. This includes maintaining that same 5. The addition to this last year, there were 4 people that were assigned here, and then there was a sergeant's position that was added to bring that up to 5. And then we've been able to meet and I would believe exceed needs of the community, and so therefore taking it forward, I think we can also do that same thing going forward with the 5 that are assigned in the years next year's position.
Okay. And where do we fall with I guess respect to deputy per 1,000 or deputy per however you do that as far as a ratio? As far as the amount of coverage we have, is it adequate or compared to our peers, other peer communities? Do we have more deputies per 1,000 residents, fewer? Where do we stand?
So we're right on par with that, but then you also get with the sheriff's office, you get an additional, we'll say, the help. So when we have the one that's permanently assigned that's working in the sergeant's position, depending on where a call might be or something happened, then you get that normal district car that would come through. The sheriff's office also participates in traffic grants that are both morning and evening grants. The evenings targeting a little more of the impaired drivers, and so a lot of those grants just are absorbed into the township as well too. US 35 and other just busier roads. So the presence of the deputies that we have out here is very, very, very
Okay.
And I think also as as incidents were to move on, we will also have the support of the in-office detectives and everything else, you know, assisting with whatever our local folks may need.
Certainly, and that is happening, that happened numerous times, this past year, there were several significant, investigations that involved, Beavercreek Township with successful prosecutions, from our detective section as well.
And from a technology standpoint, I know we've addressed vehicles in this as far as from the general fund, but with regards to technology, is there anything that we're missing or that we need to be considering, or as either a point of awareness or anything like that for next year?
Sure. At present, nothing that we are missing or needing, but you'll see an increase there as well too, a slight increase, where we do anticipate some technology having to do with our body cams and our in-car cameras, that contract that we have with the sheriff's office, as we add, actually goes into a new realm. They don't make the old axons any longer. It goes into a new design, and so there's an increase with that, so we're anticipating that as well too. So technology-wise, they're much better, adding some infrared, being able to see at night, better things like that, but that's already built in, for that. But as far as equipment that we're using every day, we're very fortunate. We have very nice stuff, and we're able to do a job with that.
Good.
Good.
And will the deputies that are assigned, does the sheriff's office have its own drone? I know we're moving into that in the fire department, but I don't know if we're gonna loan that out or if they have one that they use for their own needs.
I'll make a call in.
Sure.
For the sheriff's
As
office.
far as the drone, we do not currently have a drone. We're
Okay.
exploring the possibility. Of course, we've got our budget hearings coming up later this month, whether or not we'll get funding for a drone program next year, hopefully soon.
Okay. Okay.
If they were to need one, we're certainly available to provide the service. We couldn't loan the device out easily because of the piloting requirements. But we
Right,
can certainly
licensing, right.
respond
Assist.
and assist, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good.
Often in my experiences with that as well too, I've been a part of using that on 3 different occasions. And prior to the township fire getting one, we've used Xenia Fire, to come over. And typically those are search and rescue things as well too, not always but often. And the fire department's usually involved in that as well too. So we've been able to use those resources.
Chief, would it make sense as we do the pilot's licensing and to allocate one of those so we have a cross-trained member of one of our
Yeah, we
duty
certainly could.
officers?
Yes. Yeah, that's not a problem. They would just need to have somebody appointed and study for the test, but we could certainly cover the
Just in
cost of the
case we were to
test.
get into a sticky wicket with regards to a law enforcement event,
Mhm.
it may
That's
be
a good
prudent to have, you know, one of them maintain that license that would hopefully assist with holding up anything that may have to end up in a court of law.
Yeah, that's not a problem from our perspective.
What's
Just a
the cost
suggestion.
of the license? We have to then buy a separate license for the second
The,
person?
you actually just pay for the test, and I
Okay.
wanna say it was 300 per
Oh, okay.
test, so it's not a huge cost in the scheme of things. We could certainly help assist cover that.
But we bought a block of essentially.
That's correct.
We bought a block of test attempts, for
Mhm.
lack of a better term.
Yes, and so
And
if
have
we
we
didn't need all
allocated all
those,
those, or?
we have the people that they're gonna allocate to, but if they pass and don't need a second test, we have a couple second tests built in. We'd have one available in our current block, that's correct.
Oh, good.
Well, I think that would be a good thing for
Mhm.
Sarge to be part of, so,
Okay?
my opinion.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
I had nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And,
Were you looking for a decision or anything on this
Is there a
today?
motion?
as
I
far
don't believe
as-
there's any decision. I think
Okay.
it was informational at this point. I believe the decision will come during our normal budget hearing process.
Gotcha.
And then we just have the bi-weekly and the monthly reports, if there's any questions on those.
I had no question on the report. I had one question that was posed to me, and I recall that you dealt with the situation on Ankeny Road, and it's related to a drone. If a neighbor flies a drone over a neighbor's property, and that drone becomes disabled on the neighbor's property, does the drone owner have the right to go retrieve the drone off of another person's private property that's marked with do not trespass?
Ironically, I asked today, I just finished training last week on
It wasn't, I didn't know.
As the drone flies over, there is not an expectation of privacy up into the air. You don't own the air and then the space above your property. However, you can get into issues of voyeurism and other things like that. So that would be an investigative part to determine if that was going on with somebody flying. If it does in fact fall on the property, then it would be the same as any other incident where property was on there that doesn't give you the right to go on there, and you have to seek permission to go onto the property to retrieve it. Same as even in a hunting case, if you shoot the deer and it travels onto somebody's property, you're not entitled to go get that deer. You have to make contact with that property owner and get permission to go.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I had nothing else.
I had nothing else.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Moving on, HR.
I believe we have a special meeting request and then the biweekly report.
All right. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I need to set up a meeting for the three of you to meet with candidates for the zoning position. So I have Alex's dates that he's available. And he has October 17th at any time. October 18th before 11:30. October 24th anytime. October 25th before 11:30. And the 28th before or after our meeting.
I can do 24th, 25th, or 28th.
What was the time available on the 24th?
That's any time.
So I can do any time on the 24th after 11:30,
Okay.
any time on the 25th, and on the 28th I will not be in town.
Are you available on the 25th, Jeff?
I can do the afternoon of the 24th or 25th. Just let me check one other calendar.
I'm guessing it'll be about 45 minutes each candidate, so maybe the afternoon of the 24th would be best.
Did he need to do it at the end of the day to accommodate anybody's work schedule, or?
I will have to make a call. Just
Okay.
one individual, so if we did it early afternoon, maybe
Like
that could be
4:30.
a lunch and then,
Yeah, I could do a 1 o'clock or a 4:30 if that.
I'd rather do earlier. I have an appointment in Cincinnati. I'll have to leave around 5:30.
On Thursday or
On
Friday?
Thursday.
On Thursday.
okay. What about
As
the
of,
20?
you know, as I sit now, I'm good either one of those days. In that afternoon, any block 1 o'clock on.
If the candidates can do 1 o'clock, does that work?
Yeah.
And if they cannot, would 4 o'clock work?
That wouldn't be,
I
if she
would
has
be
to leave at
pushing it.
5:30, that would be hard.
Okay.
What about, so if they cannot do the 24th at 1, are you available for
Anytime
later on
on
the
Friday.
25th?
The
Well,
25th.
we could do 4:30 on Friday.
Okay,
I would prefer earlier on Friday.
Me too.
okay, all right. I'll see what I
Yeah.
can do.
Okay,
Okay,
let us
sounds
know.
good. Okay. And then any questions on the biweekly?
Will you make sure if it happens before the next trustee meeting, just let Jan know so she can, we can get the notice out, and I'm assuming
Sure.
you'll do it in the executive session, so
Okay.
just make sure that's part of it.
Uh, Progression with our friends to the East Xenia Township.
We are moving along. We have non-economics pretty much wrapped up except for 2, and we are delving into the economic proposals now, so.
I had a question on number 16 of your report.
I don't have it in front of me. I figured it.
Subpoenas for the trial.
Oh, yeah, that is just, there was a murder that 2 of our people have been subpoenaed to appear. And it's been canceled twice, so this is the 3rd time it's being rescheduled.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Did you need an executive session today, or?
We do on
Okay.
compensation.
So we need to add an executive
Yeah, I'm
session?
gonna have to ask for an adjustment to
Or-
the agenda for an executive session at the end.
What section, Dawn?
It is G1, 122 point,
121.22 G1.
yes. I think it's 123.21.
And it's to discuss
Compensation.
of a public
Yeah,
employee.
yep, yes, sir.
Do we need a motion to amend the agenda at this point? Make a motion to amend the agenda to add an executive session at the end of the agenda under section 122 point,
That's not right.
that's not right.
121.22.
22
Yeah, it's
G1.
121.22.
You had it right the first time.
Yeah,
I
that's
I
what
thought I did. 121.22 G1 to discuss compensation of a public employee.
Second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
I had no other questions on the bi-weekly.
Okay.
Thank you for your
I had a
efforts.
question, sorry. So you brought over a bill to be paid for $19,000. I don't have any.
I brought over a bill for $19,000?
To Kelly Harmison for kiosk.
That's not for me.
Krista said you brought it over and wanted a check made out. It's for the levy, I'm assuming.
I'm not handling the levy. I'm not involved in the levy.
Okay. I'm just repeating what was brought to me. It's a bill.
Okay.
They were asked to be paid due upon receipt, but I don't have any trustee approval. You've never, I can't do anything with it, so I
Yeah, that's
just
not
thought
me.
I'd ask.
That's
Yeah,
not
I don't know
me.
where
I
it
didn't
came
take
from,
anything
so.
over to her.
Okey-doke. Well,
Yep.
then I will shred it and don't worry about it.
Who's it from?
It's from Kelly Harmison. Seems like it's a person in Texas, but it's $19,000. I know at the last trustee meeting you approved two, but that was to World Digital and another company, but each of those were $5,000, so I think
Yeah, no,
You might actually make a copy of it. I would ask that you make a copy of that and give it to Alex, because it could also be fraud.
that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah,
No,
instead of shredding.
that didn't come over from me. Anything else?
No thanks.
I had nothing. Thank you. All right, moving on. Chief, zoning?
All we have is the bi-weekly report and any questions you may have for Mr. Amrine.
Actually, I have a question, Mr. Amron. I don't know if you can answer it in today's setting or not, but had a resident ask, how do they know if, when they are purchasing a property in the township, if they are permitted to have animals such as horses on that property? Is there a per acre limit? Is there an acreage restriction? Aside from any HOA or anything like that, they're strictly asking, is there a minimum acreage to have horses?
The township has no language in its resolutions about such matters. The advice that we give to folks who live in medium to high density residential areas, who want to have a couple of chickens in the backyard, is that it's not a problem as long as they're not selling eggs or breeding, and as long as they don't have a rooster. The Department of Agriculture of the state does specify acreage thresholds through a series of AG letters of opinion, not through legislation, I think, but I could be wrong about that. I've read some Attorney General letters of opinion that date back quite a ways into the 80s. And my best advice from other zoning officers is that these guidelines continue to stand. And they are briefly that if you're zoned ag and you're over 10 acres, you can do what you want. If you're zoned ag and you're between 5 and 10 acres, here's what you can do. Limits on the number of livestock, for example, horses, large animals.
Those are recommendations.
But
or
nowhere
limits?
does it address the issue of couple of goats, for example. And the township zoning resolution simply doesn't have any language about,
Okay, that's what, the
About
comment
that
was
in-
made, that they can't find anything in the Beavercreek Township zoning
Right.
code that says they can or cannot have horses on a 3-acre property.
Now, the city recently within the last few years, chose to deal with the issue of chickens. But I don't remember how it ended up. And my sense of it is that changes were made subsequent to allowing chickens
No.
in the city. So-
City of Beavercreek does not allow any chickens,
Okay.
period.
So I think there
I
was
voted
some
for that.
movement to do so, and then it was rescinded or
Yeah.
whatever,
It was a lot of discussion,
and it was
Lot of-
defeated.
but the bottom line, it held that no chickens in
Okay.
Beaver Creek. Bees were okay, but then we put restrictions on bees at the time.
That's what I was remembering.
So there was some backlog on the bees, and we made some restrictions on how the bees could be situated on a property.
That's
but-
what I was paying attention to that because at the time I was a beekeeper, so.
So, but as of now, as far as putting horses on a 3-acre property in the township, unless there's an HOA restriction, there's nothing from the township that would restrict them.
There's nothing that, now, if I were to get complaints from neighbors, I would refer them to the Department of Agriculture
Sure.
or to the Health Department for any appropriate enforcement action.
Okay.
If there were too many horses, clearly there's a number that you can reach that would be too much for 3 acres.
Right.
We don't specify that locally.
Okay.
I know also too, individual insurance policies will have stipulations in it of what you can and can't do for your own policy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for us, you pretty much have to have a farm ranch in order for that, to have horses.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can have, if you have a large enough property, you can have the home, but you can only have so many, so.
Mhm. Other contingent questions include, well, what if you have 10 acres that's not zoned ag? It's zoned something else? Good
Makes
question.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on, IT.
Just have the biweekly report for the board.
I had no questions.
I didn't either.
Mr. Kretz?
Good.
All right, move on to roads.
I believe the first request is for crack sealant. I have a purchase request for you, and Mr. Parks to answer any questions. Except how do the cameras work?
I had a question on the copy of the bill, purchase order, or the billing.
Quote? Yes.
I just found it unusual to have a business like handwrite all, like, it was handwritten like that, instead of having it documented out.
Let me look at it real quick. Actually, the handwritten part is by my foreman to get a total.
So they didn't,
They gave us the price of
per pallet,
per pound.
and then
Yeah.
you guys figured it out?
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering who did that. That makes more sense now. I don't have any other questions, so.
I don't.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve a purchase request 10166 to DJL Materials and Supply for 4 pallets of sealant and 1 pallet of fiber in the additional amount of $6,700, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second with discussion, the motion says in the additional amount, is it the amount of, or,
The amount of,
okay.
Okay with that?
Mhm.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Looks like we're looking for a special meeting.
we are, and it looks like we're down to the 24th or 25th.
Well, then I say it's the 25th.
Well, with whichever day we do either the 24th or 25th, whichever day we do
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
the
do it all
HR
at one
meeting.
time.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah,
can do it.
that would be fine.
Actually, if we could do it before that meeting, would be, because rather than hold until the end of that,
That would be great, because I would
because you
like
probably
to,
only need 15 minutes to a half hour at most,
no.
longer.
I would say an hour, once we get
Okay.
into cemetery operations. The other two should be fairly quick,
I
but
didn't know if you'd have information you could circulate to us before. Either way, whatever time you need, if we can put a defined amount of time to that, and then go right into
yeah.
the
And
candidates.
if you want, I can coordinate with Trish and
Sure,
we can make that happen.
do a dual purpose.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
Great.
Okay. And then is bi-weekly. Looks like you have asphalt down in Nathaniel's Grove, new section, and in River Reserve.
That is correct. And they're getting ready to do final asphalt in Claiborne Green Section 3. They're doing repairs now, so.
And I wanted to compliment you on the Tri-Truck. I've got people had come back and said that they had a great time at the Tri-Truck event, and thank you for having your staff there to help out.
It was a good event. There was good traffic all day and
Mm-hmm.
It's great weather,
great weather.
Perfect, beautiful weather.
except for the little windstorm we had.
In our end,
with
there was
care
no
flight.
windstorm.
Oh my God.
I heard an exodus followed the helicopter, though.
It did. And one of the biggest hits was, I don't know if anybody's seen, the COPPs have got the little police car.
Yeah. I forget what they named it.
They might as well call it like the little Pied Piper, because as he was driving, playing music, it was like a herd of kids. It was rather interesting to watch.
Awesome.
I love it. All right, anything else from Mr. Parks? Hearing nothing, thank you, Mr. Parks.
Thank you.
We will move on to fire.
Thank you, Board. The first thing I just wanted to make you aware of was Beavercreek was referenced in the Fire Engineering's 2019 Firefighter Wellness Supplement. They were discussing a number of cancer preventative measures, and in there they were talking about the decontamination process we've been doing for just about a year now. It came to light to us, or we really got engaged with it when UL was out here. They gave us some ideas and some examples. And so we've been using it actively since then, and they did make reference that we do what's called a wet decontamination, which involves water, exactly how it sounds, regardless of the air temperature. Some places avoid water because of the possibility of freezing or ill effects to firefighters. We have not had any problems with that, so we do use the higher quality wet decon, and they did make reference. So it's just kind of nice to see our name in print on this is an important issue in the fire service, and we're on the front edge of adopting some of those policies. So it was good press for us.
Good job.
The other thing I was going to mention for this week, it's not directly fire department related, although we're part of it, and that is the Greene County Auditor is hosting a property tax informational meeting this Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. in this room. And it kind of came about with a whole bunch of questions after the tornado. He said, hey, I have this presentation you should sit through. And I said, well, great, would you offer it so we can do it? And he was gracious enough to agree to do so. So he's going to come out, offer it. It's not levy specific, it's property tax specific. So anybody who has questions about how their taxes are calculated, the different impacts of different laws, rules, inside millage versus outside millage, he covers all of that. And so we're just happy to be able to host him out here for that event. And so that's this Wednesday at 7 p.m.
How are we getting the word out on that?
It's all social media.
Okay,
So,
good.
and with that, all I have is the biweekly report. If you have any questions.
And none?
I had none.
I had no questions on the biweekly report. At the Greene County Township Association meeting, Senator Hackett was speaking about a bill that's going through with regards to workers' comp for PTSD effects essentially on first responders, but then also the concept of carrying that over to all employees. And so I didn't know if and I should have brought this up under your time actually, but I guess it falls under both with regards to assumedly we're tracking that and we're kind of monitoring that situation. He seemed to, there was support obviously for first responders. There was pushback as far as taking that across the board to all employees. Where do you draw the line in the sand, and what's the cost impact of something like that? But I didn't know if we're hearing anything of that with our union. And
I have not heard any. We have not about the legislation. I have not heard anything. Now we have a peer listening team essentially that has been started by the local, and they do actively look for signs and issues of PTSD within their ranks, and then they have folks who are specifically trained to help be kind of a first responder for that issue. They certainly are not counselors. They don't hold themselves up to be, but they are trained to look for warning signs and then have an idea of where to point people in the direction if they identify those. And so they are very active with that. Once it gets past that stage, HR does monitor usage of EAP, not specifics, but generally what it is. And that's kind of the extent that we have internally. And to my knowledge, there have been a few folks who have talked through issues, but there has not been anything of substance that's come out of it yet, which is a good thing for us.
Alex mentioned, what was happening, and I actually suggested a couple of amendments, but it may be too late to add that. I think the reason that they're doing this is because you can't file a claim for that unless you have an actual injury. So they don't view it, you can't just go and file a psychiatric claim unless you've, broken your knee or broken an arm. So either the Bureau needs to allow for that separately, or, this other fund needs to be created. And that could be an enormous impact to the employers because there is so much in this profession.
essentially what Senator Hackett was pushing for was to take the rebates, essentially that come back in the form of no different than the rebate the township received, take those monies essentially and create that fund. So rather than have it come back as, and impact your future workers' comp
Right.
claim history.
Right.
So, but either way, it has an economic impact to the township or
Correct.
whatever, whoever that employer is.
Probably not as much as,
That's what he was
the
selling,
premium would
but
be.
I don't know if that was, so, okay.
So we'll monitor it, but this is the longest conversation I've heard about it so far.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's
and
not-
I have
not
recommended
well
people to
discussed.
see our provider for those reasons over the years. And probably because, they were coming to me because they were not able to file through the workers' compensation system. But it's, maybe it was, I'd say under 10.
Well, and what Senator Hackett was pushing for was that an administrative person could file, any position within the township
Correct.
essentially could file if they had
Mhm.
experienced had some experience without an injury, that they could make that claim.
Right.
So, okay, thank you.
If I may, I got the sense from Senator Hackett that he's still in negotiations with, for example, first responder unions and so forth, and that no legislation has yet been introduced, so it may still be possible to weigh in on it by direct contact with this office.
Good.
That was my sense from his presentation. FYI.
Thank you.
I want to thank the fire department for participating in the fire truck.
Thank you.
And make sure it goes down to the cruise, that everyone seemed to have a good time. I was not available at that time, but I did get some feedback from citizens that they had fun and enjoyed bringing their children there.
Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
I had other question on out-of-service apparatus. How many apparatuses do we have out of service at this time?
I saw one go by in a tow truck this morning, so John's asking about that right now for me.
Actually, it should be back on the road yet
Okay.
today or early tomorrow. And we had a medic go down over the weekend. It's back on the road. We still have the two at the body shop. And that is all the out-of-service stuff we have currently.
Okay.
So hopefully by the end of the day, we'll just have the two that are in the body shop.
And one of those is still waiting on the cross members, right? Which
Right.
is a manufacturer-specific thing. There's nothing we can do about that.
No, and actually, they did move it, and they've got some of the body work done on that one,
Okay.
so.
Did we
We're
have a
moving
chance to check with Otarma on, as far as any rental pool or anything like that, as far as if you have a long-term?
I have not. We just had a discussion last Thursday with senior staff on what direction they would like to go, so.
Yeah,
I have
so
yet
we
to
started
make
the
that phone call.
internal, but we haven't reached out yet, so.
Okay.
Cause the other thing is we're talking about fleet generally, and so we're also asking the question is that a long-term fleet solution, not just a short-term? So we'll ask both questions at the same time.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all the questions I had for fire.
All right, moving on. Ms. Frick,
Nothing.
Ms. Aaron's,
Nothing.
MVRPC,
No
Deborah?
meeting.
TAC? No.
This Thursday.
Regional planning, they had a regular meeting, there wasn't really, there was nothing on the agenda for the township directly, other than the, presentation for the future land use plan update and the strategic planning around that, partnering with, Miami Valley Regional Planning and, the associated costs and the time frame for that. That was it.
There's an executive committee meeting tomorrow afternoon, at which there will be discussion about the next section of Nathaniel Code. River Reserve, section 4, thank you.
So then that'll be on October monthlies then.
That'll be the following Tuesday evening for the full commission.
Okay. So we'll have something for Beavercreek Township this month to report next meeting then. No health, we'll skip superintendent, city manager, since Mr. Zaharias is not here. And, the restoration advisory board, I believe he takes care of that as well. Any update from the township association? Did anyone attend the meeting the other night?
I could not.
I attended it, and Mr. Amrine was there, and the administrator was there. Like I said, the comments from Senator Hackett. I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to highlight.
Representative Dean emphasized his desire that we all be as supportive as we can of the new career center. With respect to construction.
Okay, investment advisory?
We received some information back, it looked like from Huntington this week. I started to review it. I don't know if Jan or Miss Aaron's had time to look at that. I would assume we will circle back on that maybe next week, before the next meeting.
All right, anything for the good of the board, Mr. Kretz?
No, further kudos on the open house. It was great weather, well attended, CERT and auxiliary, shout out to them. They did a nice job. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
I had no other comments.
Wonderful. And, add my thanks to everyone for the tri-truck. Usually every year I start out up top, and I never have that much time for down below. This year I very specific started down there and spent actually probably more time down below, and it was fabulous, Mr. Park. So everybody was running around, and it was a very, very well attended event. As Mr. Kress said, weather was perfect, and up top the chili was fabulous. I think we had nine different batches this year, with balloons flying everywhere, cookies flying everywhere. It was a great event. Kudos to everyone.
Captain Brewer was the winner for the chili contest.
That was
great.
my pick. There you go. All right. That's all I had. With that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session under 121.22G1 concerning compensation of a public employee.
So moved?
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes. At 1:41. Thank you all. All right, it is 2:17 PM. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the unpaid leave of absence for Justin Davis, currently expiring on October 17th, 2019 to November 14th, 2019.
Second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
I
And
make,
that is all I have for the board today.
Great.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes. At 14:17. Thank you all.